We just lost a very talented and a very loving and giving man.
Richard Pryor was one of the most influential comedians ever, a cultural giant who changed comedy. Many of his colleagues called him a genius. Would you welcome Richard Pryor?
Thank you. I'm sorry we didn't have any drinks to give you. But we have lovely tablecloths. If you have some mustard, you could eat the tablecloth.
One of the few comedic actors who truly understood how to combine raw, honest laughter with profound, sometimes terrible truths about both himself and society was Richard Pryor. Renowned for his flawless timing and skill in delivering thought-provoking comedy with a blend of sensitivity and defiance, Pryor rose to fame through his parts in motion pictures like Silver Streak and his renowned stand-up specials. But nobody was prepared for Richard Pryor's unexpected passing in 2005, which left a shocking legacy behind. Pryor was born in Peoria, Illinois in 1940. He was raised in a brothel where his mother, Gertrude L. Thomas, worked as a prostitute and his grandmother, Marie Carter, was the manager. Leroy "Buck" Carter Pryor, his father, was a bartender and former boxer. His comedy was greatly impacted by his turbulent and difficult childhood, which gave him a distinctive style that connected with a wide audience. Pryor experienced several difficulties in his early years, and once said, "From the time I was 7, I've been trying to figure out what the world was about, and why it was the way it was." Abuse, neglect, and an early exposure to the harsh facts of life became the foundation for his childhood. His later comic writing was based on these events as he utilized comedy to convey and cope with his hardships. As it is often said, those who make others laugh are often very depressed people. When Pryor relocated to New York City and began doing club performances in the early 1960s, his career officially began. His breakthrough came with his performance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. His thin build, expressive eyes, and a talent for physical humor made him an instant stand-up comedian favorite. Bill Cosby had a big effect on Pryor's early humorous approach, but he eventually found his own voice, which was more honest and representative of his own experiences. His harsh honesty in tackling topics like racism, drug addiction, and his own personal troubles throughout his stand-up acts was both refreshing and disturbing. Pryor experienced a major turning point in his early career after a 1967 performance in Las Vegas. Mid-performance, Pryor left the stage, frustrated by the limitations imposed on black comedians and the assumption that they would amuse without confronting important social concerns. This decision to accept his own self and talk candidly about his life and the world around him marked a change in his approach to comedy. Despite going through a lot personally, Pryor quickly made a name for himself as a revolutionary comic. He struggled with heroin addiction behind the scenes. He frequently brought up this subject in his performances.
I stopped drinking. I used to drink a lot. Been 7 months. It's really strange.
Audiences were drawn to him because of his openness on his battles with substance misuse and his readiness to talk about his lowest points. They valued his sincerity. With the release of his comedic albums, including one for which he received a Grammy Award, Pryor's career took off in the 1970s. Richard Pryor Live in Concert and Richard Pryor Live on the Sunset Strip, two of his comedic concert films, are regarded as some of the best stand-up pieces ever made. Not only did Pryor excel in stand-up comedy, but he also made noteworthy contributions to cinema and television. In addition to co-writing the script for Blazing Saddles with Mel Brooks, he acted in movies like Stir Crazy and See No Evil, Hear No Evil, where he forged a famous collaboration with Gene Wilder. Pryor experienced personal difficulties despite his accomplishments. In 1980, he was severely burned when freebasing cocaine.
Writer and comedian Richard Pryor, wandering dazed and badly burned over the upper half of his body near his Los Angeles area home last night.
What's that? Richard Pryor running down the street.
The experience almost killed him and left him emotionally and physically scarred. In his autobiography, Pryor reflects, he regarded the incident as a turning point in his life, a moment of reckoning that compelled him to address his addiction. For Pryor, the 1980 episode was a turning point because it made him realize he needed treatment for his addiction. Though he struggled with sobriety throughout his life, he underwent treatment and made an effort to change his ways. He was vulnerable during his time in life, which showed in his work and gave his comedy performances a greater depth. It is impossible to overestimate Pryor's effect on comedy and popular culture. He was a pioneer who utilized his position to speak truth to power, and he broke down boundaries for African American comedians. Future generations of comedians such as Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, and Dave Chappelle all have acknowledged Pryor as a major influence. Apart from his contributions to stand-up and cinema, Pryor's impact also touched television. He presented The Richard Pryor Show, a short-lived but innovative variety program in 1977 that mixed social criticism, musical numbers, and sketch humor. Despite being terminated after just 4 episodes because of its controversial nature, the program demonstrated Pryor's determination to break social norms and push boundaries. Richard Pryor started having major health issues later in life, which had a major impact on his health. In 1986, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in addition to being legally deaf. Despite the physical restrictions the illness put on him, he kept on performing and working in the industry. Pryor's fortitude and love of his work were demonstrated by his will to keep going in the face of illness.
Multiple sclerosis.
Gift.
Why, Richard?
Because it made me stop and think and take a breath. Something I hadn't done in my life. Just take a breath, smell the roses.
When asked about his condition, Pryor said, "I think about it, but I try to keep my focus on my work and what I can still do, rather than what I can't." In his final years, Pryor focused on spreading knowledge about multiple sclerosis and encouraging research initiatives aimed at developing a treatment. His openness about his sickness encouraged many others who were coping with chronic diseases and served to lessen the stigma attached to the illness. Pryor was a comedian as well as a supporter of civil rights and social justice. He actively supported several philanthropic initiatives and spoke out against inequality and injustice using his position. His strong feeling of empathy and compassion was evident in his dedication to have a good influence that went beyond his job in entertainment. Apart from comedy and health activism, he was a golf fanatic. He frequently turned to the sport for comfort since it gave him a much-needed break from the demands of both his personal and professional lives. Pryor's passion for golf was well known to his family and friends, and he regularly took part in celebrity golf competitions. Pryor was not just an avid golfer, but also a supporter of animal rights and an animal lover. He advocated for a number of animal welfare groups and utilized his position to spread the word about concerns including conservation and animal abuse. Even as his health deteriorated, Pryor continued to work in the entertainment sector. He performed stand-up until his physical limitations prevented him from doing so, and he made cameos on TV series. His family and close friends, who helped him through his fight with multiple sclerosis, remained at his side throughout his final years. But death is inevitable, and for Richard, it was a sad conclusion to a life full of highs and lows. At the age of 65, Richard Pryor passed away on December 10, 2005, leaving behind his wife Jennifer Lee Pryor as well as his loved ones. He passed away after a heart attack, which was made worse by years of multiple sclerosis-related health issues.
But Richard Pryor was a genius truly, because what he did was he was able to take all that humor.
He spoke the way that people speak. He was a one-man show that gave you the best of his comedy.
His daughter Rain Pryor told a news outlet what she thought of her father, stating, "He was a true pioneer and a deeply loving man. His work changed the face of comedy, and his legacy will continue to inspire and entertain. He was my hero, and I will miss him dearly." What you might not know is the fact that his tombstone bears an inscription that captures his essence perfectly. "All I ever wanted was a smile." After he passed away, a statement that was both extremely close to his daily routine and very important to his heart was carved on the actor's headstone. "I'm a comic. I make people laugh." The life and career of Richard Pryor serve as a living example of the strength and fortitude, genuineness, and the capacity for comedy in the face of difficulty. His rise to fame as one of the greatest comedians of all time is a credit to his skill, fortitude, and perseverance during his difficult upbringing. Future generations will be inspired and amused by Pryor's legacy as a stand-up comedian and pioneer in the industry. An inscription on Pryor's gravestone reads, "All he ever wanted was a smile," which sums him up perfectly. This straightforward yet meaningful statement captures Pryor's longtime goal of using humor to make people happy. But we'd love to hear from you. What do you guys think of this great comedic actor? Let us know in the comments below and share your thoughts with us. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and tap the bell icon to never miss our future updates. Thanks for watching.